'Twas the week before Christmas, where nothing was new. A pipe had burst, so we had new portaloos. Crosses were slung without direction or care, in hopes that St. Rhodes would soon be there. The town fans stayed, nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of Schindler danced in their heads. And Fothers, in his waterproofs and I in my cap, had just settled in our seats for 90 minutes of crap. There out on the field ran 11 players onto the grass. I sank in my chair. Where's the creativity, the goals, the class? Away at the end, I flew in a flash, tore open social media. Boy, we were gash. We dominated the game, says the boss on the mic. Who does he think we have? Messi and Van Dijk. And now it's my turn to pick up the speaker. Shall we bin it off, lads? It was crap this week, yeah? But in rain or shine, we're always here. The Little Town podcast sponsored by Magic Rock Beer. I know in our moment that saying good things is tough. It's been a bad season. Town fans have it rough. But here I whistle and shout and call them by name. On Cozzy, on Johnny, on Phil from Kirkeaton. It's another podcast where we've been beaten. Welcome to episode 161 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast.
Jepson's there, Billy in, a goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life. Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Right, good evening, lads. That happened 10 minutes before we started.
I'll tell you what, we're just seeing an incredible World Cup final, and then it's just, this is reality. This is almost like going out in the cold now with no clothes on. Just reality is just hitting you, man, innit?
So you're the one that they're reporting on in the Spenborough Guardian. Right, guys. Welcome to everybody to episode 161. Phil, Johnny, Cozzy with me today. The episode sponsored as always by Magic Rock Brewing. Get your beers from www.magicrockbrewing.com. Use our code AHTTC10 for 10% off all online orders. Right, okay. Town 0, Watford 2. Shall we just call it there? Because it's just becoming Groundhog Day and again, isn't it? I thought we looked all right for 25 minutes. And then, to be honest, I thought we were shite. I'll be blunt. We got destroyed around the outside of the three centre backs. Fothers didn't change it until until the game was gone. We've threatened very little. Rhodes, I think it was, wasn't it? Should have scored at the end, and even then, it probably gives us a flattering look to a scoreline in a game that we were never in and never created anything in, never looked like creating anything in. Cozzy, watching Huddersfield Town at the moment is incredibly miserable. I think you in those portaloos with it in the dark in the south stand was probably a better view than what it was watching it on the field at times.
Oh, I think it just sums up the club at the moment. Then portaloos, mate, just what a mess. I mean, depressing. I mean, I don't know where you want to start really. For me, I watched the press conference on Friday with Fotheringham, and I get he's being honest, and I get he's saying it as it is, and you could think, well, some people might not want to hear that, but I think one of the reasons them seats are all empty is because we're hearing stuff like, it's almost January, there's no money, the chairman kind of wants out, Watford have got 20 million strikers, and I know that's the reality, but it just channels you to think, what is the point? And then you kind of get in there and you're thinking, just like Sheffield United, it's going to be another one of them games where, we're probably just going to kind of sit in there and just see what they've got and maybe try and nick something. But to be fair, like I said, Matt, I thought we started well, but it just, again, you could seize on it in them first 20, 25 minutes that we weren't going to have the quality. And I just thought it's all a matter of whether Watford, just when they want to go up a gear. And to be honest, at the end of the first half, we should have been a couple behind. We got away with an incredible penalty decision, which again we still didn't take advantage of. And yeah, it's just so depressing. And the biggest thing for me, we're walking in the ground and just seeing them empty seats everywhere. It was unbelievable. And I know we've had a little chat on our internal communications channel. Obviously, the red button's been sighted. It's last Saturday before Christmas, probably, and it was cold and blah 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 blah. But honestly, I think you're right, Matt. You were saying I don't think there were 10,000 there. Pos reckoned there were 12 and a half. I don't know what he was something, but I don't know if there were 10,000 in the ground. And the public, to me, have just turned around and give it a big two fingers up. And whether it's, I don't think we can beat Watford kind of thing, or is it, I'm just sick and tired of Huddersfield Town at the moment. And
it's just shit, mate.
On Saturday, because I've never really gone in the ground this year and felt, that people have kind of, we weighed the morning and we've done so many miserable podcasts, but I really got in there and thought, wow, people have given up here. And maybe there's a few mitigating circumstances, but it really hit me hard. And look, it wasn't just one stand, all the stands, Matt, were just dead. And the atmosphere, I've never known the South Stand being as quiet. There were nothing there. I think that was the worst thing. Then, in a way, having that 25 minutes positive, well, kind of, I'll say on the front foot, I was maybe exaggerating, but we looked okay.
A foot in the game, didn't we?
But didn't it make you more depressed in a way, Matt? Because you just thought, we're not going to score. It's the same old story. And
there's a couple of things I've calculated, and I'll bring Johnny and Phil in a bit. But Matt Fotheringham's been in charge for 13 games, I think now, and in those 13 games, we've only scored one goal. That wasn't from phase 1 or 2 of a set piece, and even that was a miss-hit cross from 40 yards that fluked over the head of the goalkeeper against Millwall. We just looked abject going forward. We just looked so bad. We've scored 2 goals in the last 6 games, and both of them were 2 goals by Josh Ruffles that he's never going to score again in his career. They were just, absolute outliers. So we've scored one in one game in the last 6. And I understand Fotheringham's saying we need to be defensively solid and nick games, and that's fine, but we're not defensively solid either. Watford are good. There's no getting away from it. Pedro was decent, wasn't he? Keenan Davis, we've seen over the last few years, is good at this level. And they even brought the guy on at the end, didn't they, Asprilla, and he absolutely ran rings round us down that right flank. He was excellent. And it was a depressing watch. And, on my row, there's 18 seats on my row. 3 of us were me, my other half, and little boy. And there were only another 3 seats taken. There's usually 18 on it. Behind the 8 seats behind are always taken with 2 families. None of them came. And I don't blame them to any point. It was freezing cold, and the other thing to consider was it was on the red button as well. So it's easy not to go to the game when all of a sudden Sky have seemed to be getting away with Saturday 3 p.m. red button games, don't they? Which has been quite. I think what was just quietly coming.
I think what was again depressing for me, Matt. I did a podcast with honestly there were some fantastic guys from the Watford fans. I went down a bit down memory lane because I spent quite a bit of time there when Lee played there, but. They predicted that we'd get a draw in the game. I said we'd lose 2-1. It was incredible. Watford, they weren't feeling it. They've been out of sorts. They were poor against Hull. They had a lot of injuries. So, but you'd think, okay, but it's almost like we just accepted that. It's like they've got the quality of players. They're going to beat us and stuff. But maybe, Matt, we were right. Maybe we did try and have a go. And we just got to, as usual, we're never going to score. And then eventually they wore us down and deservedly won, but by 2 goals. But I think that's just it. I think are we at a stage now where we're just looking at budgets? It's almost like back to the Chris Powell days, mate. We can't compete, and maybe that's the reality. But how depressing it is, especially when we were Premier League just 5 seasons ago with 2 seasons of money in Premier League. It feels like you've just been punched in the guts so many times. You've not a lot more to say, man.
Cozzy's picture's frozen for me. Are you back now? Let's bring in Johnny or Phil. Me and Cozzy are a little bit depressed because it seems to be becoming a pit. It's almost a slow death, isn't it? Death by 1,000 cuts kind of season, isn't it? Almost similar to the 18-19 season in the Premier League where we just can't buy a win or buy any sort of excitement. And I agree with a lot of what was said. I don't think the players lack effort. I don't. But for me, the main issue I have with Mike Fotheringham at the minute is that we just don't look like we know what to do when we get the ball at the feet. And there are so many situations where players don't seem to know what runs to make or where to go. And they just seem chronically undercoached in terms of the final third and what to do. And I have a real issue at the minute with what Fotheringham's trying to do. It's okay, sort of trying to stay tight and nick something, but we're not particularly amazing at the back. We're not watertight. We're okay, but we're not watertight. And when we go 1-0 down, we look clueless and it unravels badly. You know, we go back to the Sunderland game where Sunderland was so there for the taking. They were so poor on the night and they went 1-0 up and we unraveled and they scored again. We unraveled. And the only game we've not unraveled was that really weird one at QPR, which we won 2-1. And you've got to give it to the players that they did well. But to be fair, on balance of play, that could have been 10-2. We got an absolute spanking. But I just don't see a team that's very well organised in terms of defence and attack at the minute. I have a real issue with the tactics deployed and where we're going, and I just don't see this getting better at any point. But Johnny, we've got a couple of games coming up where it's becoming critical. And
I think one thing Fotheringham will point to, he did kind of point to in both his radio leads, interviews after Sheffield United and after Watford, is that our season won't be defined by these two games. The issue is, do you know what I mean, we'll be halfway through at Preston, and if you kind of say we'll play the exact same teams again, the second half of the season, and something's got to change. There's got to be a step change there to continue doing what we're doing. I know we played Sheffield United and played Watford, and they've got bigger budgets than us, as Fotheringham alluded to, and that is fair enough. They've also got a better squad, so. But like you said there, Matt, it's the manner of those games. You can come out of those two games, Sheffield United and Watford, getting no points, even necessarily scoring no goals, but still see something. Still see something. A team that, I mean, they're not our direct competition, but we've played well in a certain way, or we look to do the right things, or stuff hasn't necessarily come off, or just there's been something there. Like I said, there's such a lack of direction, and it's been all the way through. And touching on your point around, it's not necessarily the players not trying hard or putting the effort in. This is just my opinion, but if you look at that squad, it's split between experienced pros that are just tryhards. Your likes of Danny Wards, your Rhodes, your Hoggs, your Lees, and even though he's injured, your Matty Pearsons, who, whatever situation they are in, they're the types of players that will just work hard, irrelevant of the situation. So I wouldn't necessarily put a massive heap of praise on Fotheringham for that, but I also won't necessarily take it away from him. We're not in the dressing room. Then you've got young kids who he's given the debut to, and Phil's an advocate of this. His favourite manager isn't necessarily Lupin Huddersfield, but it's probably a bit of special connection. Someone give you debut, you might want to work hard for them. They're also kind of, it's new to them, it's fresh. They're, of course, any young lad at 17, 18, 19 who's making his first 3 or 4 games, if he's not trying hard in the situation, then he's not going to have a career. So I'd expect to see players on that pitch, given the squad that we've got that are trying hard. But just like I said, the complete lack of direction, the ineptitude when you go 1-0 down, there's no real game plan there. Again, Fotheringham coming in saying he wants to play attacking football. Okay, the squad quality might not necessarily be there to do that, but still, it's just so random. There's no process that you can see. And again, losing to Watford and Sheffield United isn't the issue. It's the way we've lost, the manner that we've lost. We've shown absolutely nothing, and it leaves you with not much faith. The games that are coming up, which are absolutely crucial now, against Luton and Rotherham, 2 teams that at the moment of the last 8 games have been equally as bad as us, or almost as bad as us. So that's a real test. 2 teams in equally poor form, that if we don't get points off, I really see it as that is it. It's very much a last chance saloon against these 2 games. Preston are absolutely flying. Doing really well. I know they lost at the weekend, but they are in form, probably just outside the playoffs now. But there's a small opportunity there. If we don't take it, then I really can't see anything coming from this season. But I fear we won't, because I think we're so weak, and I just can't set a direction. I can't see what we're trying to do. We'll work, but the lack of quality is just scary. It's really, really scary. Watford have got the quality, but we were so far apart in that game. Couldn't hold the ball, couldn't make passes. Like I say, we've not scored a goal. We've not scored a goal in out on play, have we, really? Because Nakayama's doesn't count for me. So yeah, it's significantly worrying. And these trends have been on game now. When's it going to change? How many podcasts are we going to do where you try a bit of a glimmer, you try to make an excuse, and it's the same week in, week out?
I feel like this is a very dark podcast, isn't it? I think Causey dressed there like a Jedi is more like a Sith at the minute, if that's a Star Wars joke. It is an incredibly depressing pod because it's not a fun time being a Town fan. Phil, let's bring you in. Phil, you always bring some sunshine and cheer into our life. Surely you can tell us something from the professional world of football that can cheer us shithouse fans up and tell us that we're talking a load of nonsense and things will be better going forward. Please tell us.
Unfortunately, Matt, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we're doing podcasts in a situation when your team's not winning, so you can't make it more upbeat, can you? Do you know what I mean? Because we'll be lying, won't we? So, Johnny, I think like you mentioned, obviously you were hinting on Mick Wadsworth, and I've seen a couple of things online where people have been talking about like it feels like this year, it feels like that year. This year feels like the Mick Wadsworth year for me personally, because I feel like that you watch the game and we do enough. We don't look like the worst team in the league. We do enough. I spoke to I've got a kid at my school and his dad plays, and he played against Huddersfield. I won't say against which team. And he said they were great. He said Town played really well. He says, but just couldn't finish the chances, just no cutting edge. And I think that's literally the problem. We've talked about missing players such as Hogg and Matty P. There've been massive losses. Turton at right back. Huge losses for us really. For that structure, for that solidity at the back. But we've still got players who can step in and do a job there. But it's going forwards. It's creating those chances. And I think going back to that year when I was playing, it was different for me because I was a young kid and it was just exciting. It was we went down and my team got relegated the first year I played, and the worst feeling in the world. But on the flip side of that, I'd had a chance to be a professional footballer and have my debuts, etc. But in the camp, when you're playing, it's the feeling of you know that if a goal goes in, we're struggling to find a goal from somewhere. That's what the players will be feeling. We feel it as fans. You guys are feeling it now as fans. But that's also what the players are going to be feeling like. And Johnny, I'm glad you said it because these two games, we've come back from a World Cup break and it was a good time for us, really. And you come back, and this is linked to the fans maybe not being here as well. And we're playing two really good teams, Sheffield United, Watford, two really good teams. It's not, they'll be up there at the end of the season. So we can't judge it on these two games that we've just played. But as we said, our concerns are the fact that creating chances, finishing chances are a big issue, and it's still in the back of people's minds. And I think a lot of things have contributed to fans not turning up. Like I say, the weather, the red button, that first defeat back after where we just think, here we go again. But unfortunately, that's the life of Huddersfield Town fan. It's the life of a number of other clubs that are playing in Championships, League One, League Two. But we still go, we still turn up. But like I say, I think we talk about the positives. At the moment, there isn't really any positives. And until the team get that confidence and start, scraping a few results together, we're going to be having the same conversations over and over again. And that's not us being negative. It's just the fact that it is what it is. And
when you mentioned Wadsworth, mate, I thought you were going to come on to almost like the leadership at the top of the club, because it's not even just the pitch for me. That is having a massive part in it. And I know we'll talk about it later on, but for me, I thought you were going to lead on to that, because that's the more depressing thing for me, because you think, okay, we get to January, maybe it could be a Great Escape Jacko kind of scenario. We get a Wayne Allison type in, etc. But it's like, I don't even feel that. And we know Dean wants out, and
like you say, nail on the head, Cosy, because at that period there, it was obviously in terms of all the administration stuff and things, and everything went up in the air for players, and it was a tough time. And so if there's issues behind the scenes now, etc., and we're talking about money available and all those kind of things, the players feel it. The little list of things, it's siphoned down through. Whether the coaches are good enough to hide it from the players or what, I don't know, but we definitely felt it in that period, and the players are a little bit more well off at the moment.
I'll tell you what I think. Why I wonder, Phil, what does Lee Nichols feel? Because part of you thinks, well, you signed a long-term deal, but I'm just thinking, hang on a minute, mate. To me, he's still easily top 3 goalkeepers in this division, and here he is signing this contract, and he probably knows that if we go down, he'd probably go. But it's like, he's shown his faith, the club, that this club is going places, and look where we are. It's just unbelievable, mate. He must be as frustrated as kind of we are, just thinking, what have I signed up to here, man?
Yeah,
You got to throw Thomas in that as well. He's done the same, hasn't he? He signed a big 5-year contract, so I'd throw him in as well.
But I think it's dependent on the players, isn't it? And I'm hoping, and this is maybe my own thoughts in terms of how you should be as a footballer, but I'm hoping that these kind of players should be rolling their sleeves up and thinking, right, I'm gonna prove myself and work hard for the team and try and turn these results around. And then if it doesn't work out, you're still playing for the club. You're at a club and you're there to do well at a club. So unfortunately, if your team go down, the season after, then we need to help them to move back up, and vice versa, etc. So I understand what you're saying, but they shouldn't really be coming into their heads at the moment during the season. They should be focusing on what they're doing now and how can I affect the teammates. I look on that pitch, I can imagine Nichols is having an influence on his teammates. I want to see leaders. Sorba Thomas has just been to a World Cup. I want to see him rallying around. I want to see him leading from the front. He's a player who's played in the World Cup while the rest of the boys have been at home watching. He should be on that pitch driving everything forward.
You know what though, Phil? It's like we're honoured. I mean, Carlos Corberan's gone to West Brom and just won 5 games in a row. It's almost like taking the piss out of us. Nottingham Forest nicked his best players. And honestly, I think all this other stuff is just adding to the doom and gloom, because it's incredible. It's almost like it's like Balotelli, it why is always me. But like you said, Phil, I'm sure there's other clubs that will be lower divisions who've got some hard done by stories, but it is incredible. You're looking for somewhere for a bit of positivity, and all I'm getting at work at the moment is because why this Carlos Corberan guy's won 5 games in a row. Why the hell? And you can't.
You just right in it. It's unfortunately, unless we get someone who's going to come in and throw loads of money behind the club and do things that other clubs can do, we're going to be in this situation for a long time. And like I said, we spoke about this before we came on, but if things had been different and certain things have been managed differently when we went into the Premier League, etc., ready for coming back down and having a solid base, maybe things have been different, but we didn't. And I personally won't blame it on anyone, because I think it's all learning. People have been in a situation that they've never been in before, and I think it's we're struggling from that now, aren't we? And we can only work what we've got, and unfortunately, what we've got isn't much at the moment. But I can't remember who said it now, but I see 100% effort from the players. I don't think it's anything linked to that. I just think there's other things that they matter, and we'll go on to talk about them later.
Well, you mentioned Premier League though. I was at Wembley watching us trying to get into the Premier League in a playoff final. You wouldn't mind if this were like 10 years ago, or we were a shitty promoted team, always bobbling about, trying to stay up like Peterborough always do every other year, and then eventually they go. You can kind of get it. We were in the Premier League almost nearly there last season. 84 points, full stadiums with pitch invasion against Luton. These players lifted up, flares, all that carry on. The clubs unite, everyone's together. We're Christmas like next season. It's embarrassing, man.
Hey, just thinking now, just while you're saying that, sorry guys, just while you're saying that, like the year we went up and we had obviously Moy, etc., and we had these guys on loan and all that kind of stuff. Can you imagine if we didn't go up that year and we lost all these players that were on loan for us and stuff? How do you think we'd have fared the year after if we didn't invest money back into the club? How do you think that team would have fared that went into the Premier League?
Yes, guys. You.
Would have been bottom half. The loans would have been replaced by other loans, but we'd have lost David White.
No, but what I'm saying is if it weren't replaced, like this year feels like things haven't been replaced and we haven't filled gaps. We've lost certain players and we don't feel like things have been plugged properly. I don't think we had an amazing squad when we went up that year. It was a good team spirit. We had a good plan, etc. But if we'd have lost Wagner in that year after, if we didn't go up and things that have
could have been quite similar.
I feel it would have been.
I think that's what makes
that infrastructure, do it.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so bad, like what you're saying there, because it's not just one or two things, is it? It's the fact that we lost the player final the way that we did, with 2 shocking decisions. We don't know what happened, but that's the very start of it. We then lost the 2 best players to the team that beat us. Then effectively our manager got taken kind of through the back door by a team that beat us, and has then gone to relegation rival and has won 5 straight games. Yeah. Dino has decided he doesn't want to be part of the club anymore, which is fine, and there's now an infighting between who actually owns the club. And there was no money spent, and the wrong money was spent. Manager left, and arguably the wrong manager was hired, and then Jerry's still out, probably on its way through the door to say that the second manager might have been wrong. So it's not just one
Jerry's
thing.
Out on that one.
It's like 6 or 7 massive things
Yeah.
that have all happened in 4 or 5 months. And I know the football clubs we are as close to, and they might say, "Oh, yeah, we had a situation where this happened." But if 2 or 3 of those things happen, it's probably still horrendous. But it's just fact everything's happened in such a short space of time, and the way it's happened is actually quite unbelievable. I think that's why even like the most passionate fans are struggling to get some out of them to go, and because it hurts. It really does hurt. Like saying, people keep asking, like, can we? I'm sure everyone gets, "Oh, wow, what's happened? You were playing fine, and what's?" And it's like, how long have you got? I've not got 10 minutes to explain what's happened because it is massive. So I think that's why it hurts so much, just because the sheer amount of things that have gone wrong so quickly and gone so like horrendously wrong as well.
I remember though meeting Sean Jarvis before the playoff final at Wembley. I bumped into him and Reading won, and he was like, "Cause this is now or never." And I'm almost like this is, and we knew probably it was one or two, but it shouldn't go from there crashing down. It's an interesting thing you say, Phil, because we'll never know now. But maybe Sean, I don't know. It's almost like a business. Can you imagine a business doing really well, having a brilliant year profit wise, and then it's like next year they're laying off staff. I suppose that does happen.
Because a club like ours, when you've got these players who are performing well and then in the playoffs and they're that close to getting in Premier League, people are going to want them, and we're going to have to sell them because we can't afford to keep them and match their ambitions, and that's where we're going to be, unfortunately. Bottom line.
Matt, let me ask you a question, not to do with football. Are them 2
It looks
apples
deep
on
in
your
thought,
radiator?
doesn't it,
Are them 2 apples on your radiator there?
No, they're Charlie's. They're like dodgeball. It's for dodgeball. He plays dodgeball at martial arts, and Rachel got him a couple of dodgeballs, so he plays sometimes. They
What they do martial arts?
do you know what they do? It's like a half an hour class, and it's about 5 minutes actual martial arts and about 20 minutes stretching. So I pay for. They're decent actually.
The worst news we've had all week is the Tino thing. I mean, we were talking off air again that I felt that towards to have any chance of really kind of staying. I'm not. Oh God, I'm kind of writing us off, but Tino had to. It's so gutting really, because that Olympics, he could see he were in the good shape. He looked.
I want it.
Ready to go, and him out from that's such a massive blow for us. And you know, it was sad to hear, wasn't it? Like this, obviously back at Chelsea and getting that we ain't going to see him again. And honestly, like you said, Johnny, everything's just could go wrong. It has gone wrong.
I didn't even mention that, did I? I didn't even mention the injuries. There's that many you forget.
Yeah,
but yeah.
The trouble is, he clutches for me though. That's for I know he gets Matty Pearson and Jonathan Hogg's been out, but these aren't guys for me that are gonna get you any goals and stuff. Well, that's probably like because Pearson got a few headers in last year, but it's at the other end of the pitch. That's the issue, isn't it? And it's I always look at like what's your ammunition, what's your kind of threat, what was your game changer and stuff like that as well. And I mean, a DR again. You don't want to go around 1 to 11 kind of calling guys, but you look what he did yesterday, mate. A kid playing against the top midfield, and he did his best, but he were nowhere near that. And if we're pinning his hopes on him, kind of, there's a bit of an explosive guy. It's almost like it's a bonus if it happens with him. A bit like Kamara, but the club's in such a mess that we're desperate for these guys to somehow do something. Honestly, it just is in one place, isn't it? It's as simple as that.
Do we have to keep talking about town? I feel like we need to talk about something else now. It's Christmas, isn't it? We shouldn't be this miserable at Christmas. Feels like the ghost of Christmas past has come to haunt us, hasn't it? The past of 1819.
I kind of thought, sorry, Matt, the portaloo thing just sums us up at the moment. I had a little
shit houses everywhere, Cosy. Shit houses everywhere.
Yeah, that's just it. And again, coming on the back of the news last week about the rumours from I think Huddersfield Hub reported it, that KSDL on the brink of going under and the club's buying back, and it's just, but we've said it before. I mean, that stadium, it's just proved it this weekend. These 11, 12 million spent on it. That's before we even got any players. It's such everywhere.
It's some new piping now.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's a big task, isn't it, for any potential new owner? And there's nothing really that we can report on this week in regards to the ownership. I think the problem with everything that's going on at the minute is that everything's tied down in non-disclosure agreements that you're very unlikely to get the truth from one angle or the other. So, I mean, we can dig on things, and I've been digging a little bit, but there's nothing I can actually really say publicly without getting into trouble, because a lot of it is NDA. So I'm not going to get into trouble or speculate either. No, I know. It's just, to be honest, it seems like a standoff, doesn't it, between Dean and Phil's people. And to be honest, that kind of standoff is going to have a huge effect, isn't it, Johnny, on any potential new owners? Because if there is a standoff, as we believe, or has been rumoured to be believed on in other sources, then any potential new owner is not going to touch it until that's resolved, are they really?
No, we touched on this. And like you say, ultimately, it's just speculation because there's only 2 or 3 people who know the true situation. But you can kind of just read into what's happened and look at different football clubs who have suffered through the same situation. It's like when things get legal or things get messy or an argument, or you got 2 people who remain successful and have got egos come to a point where they stop communication, then that's what kills business. That's what kills football club, because nothing gets done. It's like we don't know the situations, and I'm sure someone will say, actually, this is why things happen. But in my world, in business, if 2 parties want something to happen, it happens. Time doesn't get to you. You don't miss out on stuff. You don't miss deadlines. Things happen. And for me, for the share window to lapse and Dean Hall's power of attorney to lapse, that shows
Rumoured,
to me whatever
speculated.
Rumoured, it is speculative. That shows to me, for whatever reason, I'm not saying it's Dean Hall's fault, but either something's been changed or something significant's happened behind the scenes that deal hasn't got done purposefully. It's not just the fact we've run out of time. And if that means that because of the situation with Phil's companies, that ownership, those shareholdings are now under control of administrators, that creates a really difficult situation as well. And like you say, potential owners is a whole issue in itself, because I don't know how many people are looking at buying a football club in the situation that we're in at the moment, with the current debts that we've got and potential assets. It's in the north of England as well, which creates a bit of a problem. But a club that's got messy shareholdings, administrators involved in that, partners that aren't necessarily kind of, encouraged to sell or make the sale easy, it just makes it a harder situation. At the moment, the football club needs direction. It needs someone to take hold of it, and it needs funding. And you're not going to get any of that in the current model. And like as Phil said, it's not something that's going to happen quickly, and that's the problem. And it's, for me, League One is a worry, but it's beyond that. If we are in League One next year, the football club needs someone to pick it up and actually not just put money in, but actually direction, keeping all the players. What do we want to be? What does Huddersfield Town League One look like? And if this kind of situation is still the state of play in League One next season, League One is not the division it was when we left it. Absolutely not. Do not be fooled about the quality of teams in that league and how the size of teams in that league. We will not be in the top 4 or 5 teams in that division by nowhere near. Probably budget as well. So it's not just the worry of League One, it's the worry of what next season and the season after could look like if this ownership situation is allowed to continue. And it's not my money, it's not my pound that I'm asking people to spend, but I think for the good of the football club, something needs to happen. And like as he was saying, if this was an Italian team or something like that, you won't. You'd have in protest. You'd be around. I'm not encouraging people to riot. That is not the thoughts of Vanny Takes That Chance podcast. But I think
all thoughts are of Jonathan Gillespie of Preston.
But it's like I don't know. For me, if things want to get sorted, they get sorted. And it's about someone stepping up and like looking at the legacy, that what they want their ownership to be. And I think it's worrying that if this was allowed to continue, that we really could sleepwalk into. And
that really goes for both of them as well, doesn't it, Johnny? Not just. No,
it's not. This isn't at Dean, and it's not. It's not saying that he was wrong to let stuff lapse, and not. It's not at that at all, because there might be something which was he doesn't agree with, and that's why it's had to happen. It's not at that. It's just saying, well, at the moment, there's 2 people who've got it within their gift to solve the future ownership of the football club, and it's. They've got a lot of people's. Passion in their hands to do that, and ultimately, finding an owner is one thing, but making the club the most attractive it can be to find an owner is in their control. I think it's really important that gets looked at, and also fans are allowed to question that. I can understand there's NDAs and how business works, and you can't just tell everyone what's happened in the meeting because nothing will ever happen. I get that. So we all understand how these things work, but the absolute silence and the worry and has it happened, has it not happened, what does it mean, and the whispers doesn't help anyone. So I think we do need some form of direction. We do need some form of narrative out of the football club as to what is going on, because the fans of the football club, and I think the complete silence at the moment, and the tidbits that come out through people know people just doesn't help at all in any way, shape, or form. And I am worried. I am really worried. Like I said, not so much for this season, because this season is an issue, but what next season and the season after could potentially look like for a football club in this situation, because we've seen it all too often with other football clubs that find themselves in this battle when nothing gets done, and there's only one thing that suffers, and that's the business in our world. That's the football club
and the supporters. It wouldn't be a Huddersfield. It's a quick change of direction here, but it wouldn't be a Huddersfield Town podcast with Phil Senior on it if Phil Senior wasn't eating. And for anyone that's listening, Phil seems to have had a plate of something handed to him that he's trying to hold off screen.
You know what, Matt? When he had his
slightly
microphone off, I knew we were talking food. It was obvious what were coming, mate.
I know. Go on, Phil. What have you got this time?
Well, I've just got a cheeky little pizza.
Hey.
Fair enough. I think we all need some comfort food at the minute, don't we? I know we've started off this podcast quite miserable.
Just a bit.
And I don't really apologise for that, because we're bottom of the league by 5 points now. But someone's messaging me on DMing me, and it's a point that I've probably overlooked actually. And
sliding in your DMs, Matt.
Yeah, they don't know we're recording, so it's just a general chat. And he's mentioned, actually, in fairness to Mark Fotheringham, I know I've been very negative of him at the start because we're losing games and not scoring goals. But since the Cardiff game, since we beat Cardiff and Mark Fotheringham's come in, we're actually 17th in the form table, which is probably where I would put our squad, to be honest. We've had more points in that period than Hull, Cardiff, Bristol, Wigan, Blackpool, and Rotherham. And those are the teams that we need to get above. What's killed us really is that we're losing at home to, teams like, shouldn't really say teams like, should we? Because we've been teams like before, but we're losing against teams that you would hope that we would beat. So
Blackpool, Wigan.
Sunderland,
rivals,
Blackpool, Wigan, etc.
Not teams like, it's rivals, isn't it? It's relegated.
Yeah,
we're losing rivals. That's what.
Yeah, we're losing to teams that you would anticipate would finish in that bottom third, and we're losing at home. And we've picked up one win away from home all season, and I think that's what hurts us. And now we're playing Sheffield United and we're playing Watford, and we're going, shit, we need to win a game here. And we're playing against João Pedro, against Keenan Davis, against all the Asprey that came on against us, and we're playing against these teams now, going, because we've ballsed up against, Hawkeye ballsed up against Blackpool, didn't it? But because we've lost so many games against opposition like that at home, we're now having to get results against much better teams. And when we lose at home to Watford, ordinarily it wouldn't be the end of the world, but because we've lost to Blackpool, because we've lost to Wigan, it's becoming the end of the world that we're losing to good teams. And it's hard to remain objective and focused when the season's going so badly. And we've played two good teams there. Slaven Bilic is a top class manager. Cosy doesn't like Paul Heckingbottom, and I think if you look at Heckingbottom pre Sheffield United, Cosy would have a damn good point. But he's done well at Sheffield United. And
I don't. It's just
apparently he's a really decent geezer, him, to be fair.
Heckingbottom. I'll take it back. Maybe I've done Cosy badly there.
Football. It's not about like just always moaning at officials. But no, you're right, Matt. But you know what's weird? It's almost like a mental thing for me. But I'm trying to cast my mind back. The Cowley season when we just scraped up, we were kind of, obviously we bet West Brom, that stopped their kind of promotion. So I felt going into some of the games later on against some of them big hitters, we could win. I'm struggling for memory here with the Corbin bad season, because we took some beatings. I mean, Bournemouth taking us apart, but I'm sure we beat a good Swansea side behind closed doors, mate. But it's just now, if you come up against anyone like, say, Watford, Sheffield, trying to kind of throw some others into it who are playing really well, even someone like Birmingham, I watched them on Friday, Matt, and they've been absolutely...
John Eustace is doing a great job there.
Yeah,
he's doing a great job.
Got their loans right, and we aren't, and we're paying the price, man.
There's something dodgy about their loans, which might come back up further on.
Do you reckon our biggest problem was the fact that we needed to bring in someone who was tried and tested, knew what he wanted from the team, and that would have made a difference? I mean, because I'm not with Fothers, I think he's doing best with what he's got. I think. Do you think that someone else would have come in and done a better job?
Yeah, I do. But I just think the situation we were in, and I think Johnny had this discussion, but I think at the time, I think we were all pretty much of the opinion that it needed a firefighter and not a risk. And we've taken a risk, and Mark Fotheringham might be the best manager in the UK in 2 or 3 years. Who knows? Some of the stuff he says, some of the stuff is complete nonsense that he says, but some of the stuff's really good as well. You just have to pick certain bits out. And I don't specifically blame Fotheringham for the position. I think he's doing the best with what he knows how to do. He's done some good bits before, hasn't he, in Germany? But he's probably the most inexperienced head coach we've ever appointed, and at a time when we needed some direction because we're not getting it off the field. So for me, he was the wrong option at the time. But you say that, but who else could we potentially? I know we picked him above Michael Carrick, and Michael Carrick's doing really well, isn't he, at Middlesbrough? But Michael Carrick could have just done just as badly as what Fotheringham is. But I did think we needed someone who'd been there a little bit and seen things, and even now, if you say to me, if we get rid of Mark Fotheringham, who would you want as manager? You can't really give a name that would be realistic, because if you say Chris Wilder, he'll laugh at you if you offer him this job. He's not coming here. Then you're looking at Warnock, and Warnock's 70-year-old doing his thing. You know what I mean? He lives in Plymouth, and he's happy doing his thing. I don't think Warnock's back, and he's probably a little bit not as snarly as what he used to be and what we'd need. And honestly, I struggle to name. I did throw a name to someone earlier that I think would be a good manager for us, but maybe not in this situation. And I would get absolutely pelters for this, but I'm quietly impressed with the job Joey Barton's doing at Bristol Rovers at the minute. But even then, the situation we're in, who can you get, Phil? Who can you realistically get? You can sack Mark Fotheringham, and yeah, you've got the head on the stick everybody wants, haven't you? But
what do you think? What's Wilder waiting for?
Well, he was applying for Premier League jobs when he was at Middlesbrough, wasn't he? So I think he's not going to get that now. But Chris Wilder would be great, but I just don't think we've got the money to. We don't have the money to get him in, or the ambition in January to get players in to get him safe. So I think he would look at us and go, "I'm not touching that."
His next job's massive because of the Middlesbrough. There's kind of people, maybe in the great, because he would never link with QPR, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But so like for us, it's such a risk.
Oh, do you know what? Critchley would have been a great choice for us, but his QPR have nipped in and got him, haven't they? So he's off the chance. But so again, Town, you have to decide, don't you, guys, if you stick or twist with Fotheringham, and I have no idea. I generally couldn't give you a 100% assurance that getting rid of Mark Fotheringham will improve the situation. I don't think it. I think unless you've got money to go get somebody like Wilder, then you're probably just going to appoint somebody else from the same sort of ilk who'll do the same job. So what's the point?
Listen, if we had Raji van der Parra,
listen.
He is hard though, isn't it? Because I think when Schofield was sacked, it was. I mean, we won't go in Schofield could have done that to death, but I think when Schofield was sacked,
if you slate Schofield,
it was absolutely evident with the situation the club was in, the injury crisis, the players we had. It needed someone who there's a lot of inexperience had to come into the squad. It was absolutely obvious it needed someone who, yes, fair enough is a question, but someone. I mean, not. I know the club had the method and how they wanted to stick to that and how they work with the direct football, etc. But it should have been recognised at that period of time they need to break from that, because that's all well and good. But at this point in time, it was crisis, and in the crisis, you need someone who's got the experience, has worked a relegation battle before. Might not have worked, but worked a relegation battle before, got experience, long in the tooth, understands football, can understand how to manage, and has got years of experience. We might have someone in the same situation, but to ask someone who was so new and so fresh to it to come in was a risk. That said, I don't want to be hypocritical, because 3 or 4 games in, we all said in this podcast how much we liked him. We were impressed with his interviews. We can see why he might have got the job. We can see why Bromley might give it to him. So it's really tough to sit here and say, because that's what I thought beforehand. But I was swayed. Yeah. Game 3, game 4, I was really impressed with him. and like it is hard because the chap who said we might have been 17th if season started when Fothers came in. I guess that it's probably not too bad given what situation he's in and the squad he's and players had to pick from so far. The issue is obviously we need to be above 17th to kind of put right the wrongs of the first 10 games. But yeah, it's hard. I feel hard to criticise the choice of Fothers because I mean he did impress me, and I actually said in this podcast I was quite happy he got the job. But I don't know. To change now, it looks bad, doesn't it? To sack 2 managers and the press you'll get off that, and then how's that look on what the players think and everything like that. Feeling that was a bit with that, but I don't know. I can't see it changing. I think for me, if you roll dice again and you go down, you've not lost anything. Because
Barnsley
I can't
rolled the
really...
dice twice, didn't they?
Yeah, but then again,
it's got so many parallels with them, hasn't it? This season.
But they brought in another nobody, didn't they? And I don't. I mean, there are people out there. Stoke manager, for example, don't think he's got a job.
Neil, he's gone back to Northern Ireland.
Gone Northern Ireland. With Wadsworth to come back, would we be any better off now?
Yes,
I think so. 100%. I just think because it's just a bit more structure, a bit more experience.
It's the wave as well that would have come. Yeah. The fans would have jumped on. Not that one, but the sort of the ride. I think the ride. I think the players would have been so lifted, and everybody would have been 100% ready to go. And I think the whole attitude around the place would be different. I don't think it would be amazing, but no. I think we'd be a lot. I don't think it can be with the resources we've got at the moment. To expect someone to take this team to mid-table and it would be unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? It was always whoever came in. It was always going to be a struggle to the end of the season. But I just feel having put an experienced head in there and putting your money or your resources into someone who knows what they're doing and has done it before because they've done it before was the only real way. Tying an inexperienced squad or a squad with, do you know what I mean, aging and getting worse as the years go on, with a brand new manager who's coming into an absolute dogfight, who's doing well given their circumstances. I don't think you can slam for them at all. Just wasn't really the way to go. But like I said, I can see why he interviewed very well. So. Right, so the guy that gave me those stats has actually taken it from the Examiner. He's plagiarised the chicken, so he's not put them together. And apparently it was before the Watford game. So after the weekend, Cardiff and Hull are now level with us, and the form table and Blackpool are below us. So we'd be 18th. But still, 18th since he came in. Fothering him with that squad is probably par, I would think.
People just gone missing on that now. Where's Holmes? Where's Kazumu? It's like...
Kazumu had an Achilles injury, was it? I think he had an Achilles injury, so he wasn't fit. Holmes, we'll talk about some of the players that potentially could be leaving the club because Dwayne was telling people in the fan? I think it was a fan park or something. So he was telling people that he's not injured, and the rumours are that he's been made available. That wasn't confirmed by Dwayne, by the way, but the rumours are he's been made available to leave. Whether it's a tactic by the club to, leverage it to push him out, I don't know. Whether he just hasn't trained very well, as Fotheringham said post-match. Who knows? Well, you have to just take Mark Fotheringham at face value, don't you, I guess? So Dwayne's rumoured, Danny Ward rumoured by Alan Nixon to be leaving today. Jordan Rhodes has been rumoured. So Canberry, obviously, and all his goals are coming in, aren't they? So so there's obviously changes afoot. And to be honest, Tyrese Simpson has come on, and there's bits I quite like about Tyrese Simpson. The best bit about that game for me was him going through with the defender on 88 minutes and shoulder barging him, and he fell on his face and slid for about 15 yards into the goal mouth. And I thought that's what I want from my striker, just to knock people around. So I like that from Tyrese, but he's very raw and inexperienced. So he's not the kind of player that you can pin put your hat on to save the season. We need experience and we need quality. And if those three players go out, we need an attacking midfielder to create and score, and we need another striker to play up there and put the ball in the net. And they're like gold dust, aren't they? Everyone wants one in the Championship, and the team that you go to last is the team sat there 5 points behind second bottom, isn't it? So, Cameron Archer's not coming to Huddersfield if he's available on loan. There's 23 teams ahead of us in the queue. We've got to be very clever in how we do this, and we've got to either try and pluck someone from the bench in the Championship, or we've got to go abroad and do something clever abroad where nobody's looking. It's difficult. I don't think we've really got. Phil talked about the structures. I don't think we've really got. Have we got the structure to go abroad and look at something clever from, like, I don't know, Brazil or Argentina or something? Just plucking that out of my head because of the whole point system that they've got now, and it's easier to get points there than what it is in Holland for some reason. So it's very difficult. We can't go to Bundesliga 2 anymore and pluck someone out. They won't get the points to get the work permit.
Matt? What's happened to him?
There was a rumor, wasn't there? I can't remember where I saw that Conor Mahoney's been made available as well in January.
Bench, these guys, though.
He was on the bench on Saturday. Yesterday was Conor Mahoney.
All right.
But again, the same people that are bringing these guys in have got to go out and pull some rabbits out of hats, and they've done it in the past, haven't they? Did it last year. Sinani was pretty decent in the end. I know he got a lot of stick, didn't he? But his goals and assist contribution were pretty good in the end. His set pieces were decent. So we need some serious rabbits out of hats, don't we, to give us a fighting chance in January. And Fotheringham's telling everybody there's no money to do that. So the club are obviously shuffling, as Cozzy likes to say, shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, aren't they? And trying to put some different chairs out there. To Elias' chair would be nice. He's not coming by any stretch of the imagination, but it just seems to be that they're throwing the dice. And to be honest, at least they're trying to do something. They're trying to move people out and in. But can we get the quality that's needed? I'm really skeptical because of the position that we're in, the money available, and it's just going to be so difficult. And maybe Matt Fotheringham can use his nous of things in Germany, use his Felix Magath, Jurgen Klinsmann links to try and pluck something out. That's all we can really hope for, I think, at the minute.
You've got to be careful, because I think just doing it in the right way, isn't it? And if you're trying to house players and not play them and give them the cold shoulder and try and force them with players that can do a bit. I mean, Ward scored 14 goals last season in the Championship. So are we going to get a player who's, I know it's another year on and he's, in his 30s now, so each year goes by probably means a bit more, but are we going to get someone in who is better than that for 6 months, who can quickly
that's the funny thing,
acclimatise into football? And the same with like Holmes. I know Holmes does split opinions a little bit. He splits opinions in our like, what do you call it officially then? Because didn't you communication? That's the one. I always say, what's that? Does split opinions, but again, he can do some things a bit different in this squad. He's a bit of a unique player as well. So we don't see what happens on training, but I'll just be cautious about cutting players off, which you seem to do quite a bit. We've cut players off, cut Russell off. Again, make of that what you will. But before we've really got anybody, we might have players lined up. But it's are we better in the squad quality wise?
Johnny, I'll tell you, just stepping in there, but Fotheringham were a bit arsey with. I don't know about arsey, but he were asked about the loanees. And listen, guys, I won't talk about January and bringing players back. And a couple of guys asked. I think Stuart Rain asked him, and I forgot his name. He'll kill me from Radio Leeds, but he wouldn't have it. And you just
Louis.
Some of these
Louis,
guys, but I suppose you're clutching them, are you? Someone like Danny Granting or back Critchlow and stuff. Is it really?
I bring Critchlow back just to piss Bradford off, if I'm honest, because they love him down there. So that'd be worth it just for that.
I'll tell you what's sad to me though. It's like, God, this is so depressing. But if we do not get the results that, I totally agree with Johnny. These Luton Rotherham games are absolutely huge. I don't think even 4 points is probably enough, really. You remember the Premier League season when I thought just after Christmas we were done, and then 4 months of the season, 4 or 5 months were horrendous. They were horrible, and even when some of the A-listers were turning up, the grounds were emptier. Your heart was sucked out because you were beaten. And I dread to think I just hope we can get them results, because oh my God, the crowds there. Everything from January to May could be horrible.
And that was the Premier League, which we all know we didn't belong in. Imagine what that'll be like in the Championship. Oh. Like, at least that was an holiday, wasn't it? But yeah, it'd be horrendous.
But in the back of your mind, though, Johnny, you always thought, well, maybe naively in the end, because look where we are. But it's like, okay, we're going down, but we'll, parachute money.
Yeah, I did.
Sure, and
I
we've
did.
got some good players to come in, and surely in the Championship they'll show, and obviously they didn't when it turns up. But you look now and you think, just what you were saying, you were saying earlier on about, kind of next 2 years, it's, God, I hope no one's wanting to pick me up for Christmas here on this podcast, but
I might put a warning on this podcast before it goes out.
Yeah, but you can't kid people, mate. And the people voted with their feet yesterday, and it's like, it's so, wow. It's you mentioned Wadsworth, Phil. It does feel like that kind of era, and very sad, very, very sad.
Maybe that could be the title of the podcast. It's beginning to look a lot like Wadsworth.
You've got it there.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so we don't really have much to say on the ownership, the rumours of players going in or out. I can't be bothered talking about Huddersfield Town anymore. It's depressing. It's Christmas. We should be happy. Tell you what, lads, what do you want for Christmas? It can be Huddersfield Town related or not. Phil obviously wants more food. I think that's it. Maybe I saw an interesting thing the other day. Do Yorkshire puddings belong on a Christmas dinner?
100%.
You think so?
Who's not having Yorkshire puddings on a Christmas dinner?
Apparently it's not the done thing. Apparently it's not the done
100%, and it has to be turkey. Can't have any gammon or beef or any of that rubbish. It's got to be turkey.
Enough gammon on this podcast. But yeah, I tend to go with turkey at Christmas, but we obviously, coming from a stock of pig farmers, we do sometimes have a leg of pork, but
Pork's for the
I
evening meal,
go with turkey. Yeah, I go with turkey.
Evening meal.
Turkey, and I love Yorkshire pudding, so it's always a yes from me. You can't,
Cosy, what do you want for Christmas?
Every meal's better.
What's on your wish list?
I want some hair, mate. Here, one of my friends today, I'll send you a video on, but he's got his Christmas do his rugby team, and he's gone as Ronaldo. The old Ronaldo, the big Ronaldo, and he's managed to got that hair bit there, and Brazil, it looks incredible, mate. But I won't mind my hair back. No, oh God, you put me on the spot, man. It's non-town.
Lightsaber.
Oh, you are
lightsaber.
Oh man,
different colour to his green one.
I've got a new fridge freezer today, so I'm happy, mate. I've had my present already. It's just to know that my fridge ain't gonna be frozen tomorrow. It's just a beautiful thing, man. But
is anyone going to a new Boxing Day?
I won't mind a wee end at match at Boxing Day. Oh, sorry, 29 from that as well, where I can see what I'm doing, mate, instead of aiming everywhere, man. But yeah, it's what do you say, Phil?
Is anyone going to the Boxing Day game?
No,
Johnny lives next door.
I am. But it's only like 10 miles from me, 7 miles from me, so I am going. But can't wait for that.
I think there could be a little bit of a surprise, a little Christmas present.
Johnny, I mean, Phil, have you seen our record at Preston?
I know.
It's like so bad, and Preston are good as well at the minute.
Yeah,
that's what I put on when we got to do them in a cup. I was like, I don't think I can think of a worse game. They're not an exciting team to go and watch. We never beat them. You've seen them so many times. It's just horrendous.
I'll tell you what's doubly bad as well, because I was thinking, well, maybe you could turn it into a Blackpool weekender. Nottingham Forest are there, aren't there? The last people I want to see, innit? Oh, what a cheery podcast. There's been anything good.
You mentioned Forest. What are you doing?
Premier League Cup, we're on the march, haven't we? We're doing well in that. Good. I think we're was it West Brom? But yeah, it's tough times, isn't it? And I go back to where we started. Just seeing that ground, just like it was yesterday, it shocked me, and it should do really, but it did. You would like the people of Huddersfield just were like, up yours, Huddersfield Town.
It's sad that it goes that way, isn't it? But it's just the way Town fans deal with it. Like you say, it would be good if I don't know, maybe it'd be bad if they were a little bit more vociferous. In certain terms, because the way that the clubs run at the minute, it just doesn't feel acceptable, doesn't it? It's very quiet, and we appreciate things are tied down with non-disclosure agreements, but I think in terms of where the direction of the club is going, it could be a little bit better. But
I think, Matt, Phil said
maybe that's what we want for Christmas.
It's but it's just that connection, isn't it? Obviously promotions, but you felt the love, you felt the connection. And
yeah, I was thinking about this.
There's no real players you can connect with at the moment. It's just everything.
I was thinking about that because I were on about that with someone else, and they said, yeah, everyone loses that connection when you're losing games, and it's true, isn't it, to a certain point. But I was thinking last year when we were winning as well, and it still didn't quite. I don't know what it was, but it still didn't quite feel the same for a lot of people, did it? It was strange. The crowds didn't really come back, did they? Even though we finished third, and there's still a lot of people not quite in love with Huddersfield Town, and it is strange. And we could do with getting some of that love back. I think that could be the best Christmas present.
I think it's just knowing that your team's got a threat, knowing that you're going to rock up to a game, and knowing that there's going to be something from your team that's going to trouble the opposition team. And sometimes I rock up to that ground now, and I just feel like we're just going to do enough, but there's going to be very little threat up top, and that's what I think fans just want to see. You just give it a real good go with chances, etc. And we all want players to work hard and put 100% in, and I don't think for 1 minute that any of the players aren't, but. You've got to be entertained, aren't you, at some point as well? And you want to see a little bit, don't you? And we're just not quite seeing that at the moment, are we? So
I think that's the thing when he came in, we're all about putting the shift in, and I don't think anyone argued, that way.
No,
but putting the shifts in, he's got that. To be fair, maybe under Scuffler we didn't maybe get as much as that, but I think that's what makes it a bit more depressing. We've got that shifted, so it's something like, should we be grateful for that? It's like, yeah, but the aim of the game is to score more goals than the other team, and we're.
Yeah, but didn't he say when he first came that he wants to get as many attacking players on pitch as he can?
He kept saying it.
He did, and then he realised that none of them were any good. And recently he's been saying it's not really about entertaining; it's about staying in games to try and nick them and stuff. Which, fair enough. I mean, he's going down that route because he's trying to build it around the defence, which is probably the best thing about us, isn't it? But it's tough watch, and when you lose games and do that, it looks really shit, doesn't it? But when you win games, you come away thinking we've done a job on them, don't you? So it's a tough thing to balance. And I think if we lose against Rotherham over Christmas, I think there will be a lot of noises in Mark Fotheringham's direction, because Rotherham aren't any great shakes at the minute, and it's disappointing they actually beat us at their place as well. So we've got to win that game. There's no two ways about it. We've got to win a lot of games. I think Mark Fotheringham reckons 9 games, and he seems quite confident that he's going to do it. And part of me wants him to have a go, but it feels like Football Manager, doesn't it, Johnny? Where you don't click on save and you go, you know what, let him have these games just to see how he does, and then it's like, no, quit, start again, reload it, and then bring someone else in. But yeah, that's all I've got really. We going back to what we're going to do over Christmas, I think we probably would have done a Twitter Spaces thing for maybe the Preston and Rotherham games, but it looks like Elon Musk has lost his shit a little bit, hasn't he? And he's pulled Twitter Spaces because he got criticised or something on one of them. So so Twitter Spaces doesn't seem to be a thing at the minute. So
we've got problems. Bloody hell, Twitter's struggling, isn't it?
I know. So we'll see what happens over Christmas, and I really hope that we can be a bit more cheery and have some Christmas spirit among us, because it's a little bit dreary at the moment, isn't it? So I've got nothing else to say, guys. Have you guys got anything, or shall we call it a day?
Let's call it a day.
Let's call it a day, and let's hear some lovely Christmas music from Chris Carter.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.